10 millimeter versus 44 Magnum and Revolvers. And what I have today is 180 grain bullets for both. So I'm going to use Underwood ammunition, 180 grain XTP for our 44 Magnum, and 180 grain XTP for our 10 millimeter. So obviously our 10 millimeter is going to have a higher sectional density because the diameter is smaller, but I'm so curious about, you know, the performance with the same bullet weight that I just felt like I had to come out and do this. So I'm going to use my 4-inch Smith & Wesson revolvers to do this test. My Smith & Wesson Model 69, it's actually a 4 1/4 inch, and my Smith & Wesson Model 610, that's a 4-inch barrel. And we're going to see what we get with both of these. Now, our 44 Magnum is rated at 1,700 feet per second, and our 10 millimeter is only rated at 1,300 feet per second. All that being said, you know, a 4-inch 44 Magnum, you lose a lot of power out of. As we're a 10 millimeter, we might not lose so much power. So it might actually be, these might actually be pretty comparable when we put them in 4-inch revolvers. So we're going to see what we get here. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. I'm just going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. No denim on there or anything like that, to see if we get hollow point expansion. Then after that, I'm going to do more of our real world simulation where I have 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that's going to represent our pectoral muscle. Then after that, we'll have a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard right here that's going to represent hitting ribs or sternum. That'll be more of our real world simulation. And then I am going to shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 10 millimeter auto, and these are rated at 1,300 feet per second. So I do want to check for bullet creep here. If you didn't know, you know, semi-auto caliber cartridges are not roll crimped into the bullet. So because there's not a front of a magazine to contain that bullet, sometimes you can get bullet creep out from the case. So I colored the entire bullet and the top of the case mouth with this 10 millimeter here to see if we get any bullet creep out with these. So I'll check that on my last round here. So we're rated at 1,300 feet per second. Let's see what I can get here. 1210, 1240, 1266, 1220, 1259, and Underwood did pretty good. No bullet creep out whatsoever. So being that this is not a law enforcement grade ammo, that's pretty darn good. 1267. So, you know, not particularly consistent, but it seems like to me it's very accurate. Next up we have our 44 Magnum. I really hate shooting this revolver. I kind of regret getting it some days. But we're rated at 1,700 feet per second. I don't think we're going to get that, but let's see what we actually get here. No read. 1146. 1269. 1350. All right, that's loud, but that is one of the most inconsistent loads I have seen. You know, just about a 200 feet per second spread. So that concerns me because I don't know exactly what I'm going to get when I go into the ballistics gel block. Will it be 1100 or will it be 1350? So let's start our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, our first shot into plain clear ballistics. It's so hot and humid out today that, you know, the side of the gel block is actually fogging up a little bit. I'm hoping we don't lose this entire gel block when we hit it, but plain clear ballistics, 44 mag. Let's set that back up and hit it with the 10 millimeter. All right, 10 millimeter auto. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look. All right, so very interesting here. You know, this whole thing moved back with both of these because these are pretty powerful. First 3 inches, hard to kind of see through there. The 44 mag on the bottom actually busted off a lot of pieces of lead. The 10 millimeter did not, but the 10 millimeter did bust off pieces of lead and copper as we went into there. So fragmentation in that first 3 inches with that 44 mag, a huge amount of damage. And we did not get over penetration at all. We went to 16 inches of penetration. So this is one of those things that people like to argue about. They say, well, 44 mag always over penetrates. That's true if you're using a 240 grain, 300 grain, but when you use a 180 grain, you want to lower that sectional density down so that you don't get over penetration. So that's kind of why I wanted to compare 180 to 180, because normally that's kind of quote unquote unfair, but when you're working with so much energy, you kind of want to bring that down so that, you know, you don't have so much sectional density, and the bullet weight behind a certain diameter will push that bullet deeper. And that's what we see here with the higher sectional density with the 10 millimeter. So we went in and had a whole bunch of damage, just about as good as the 44 mag, to be honest, right here. But then we started losing pieces at about the 7 to the 9 inch mark, pieces fragmenting out, busting off that bullet. And we went to about 18.25 inches of penetration. So both of these penetrated to the right depths, not really any over penetration. The clear ballistics is a little, you know, the bullets go a little deeper in that than organic gel, so I would not consider that 10 millimeter over penetration at all. So looks pretty good. Let's put on our denim, put on our MDF, see how they compare more of our real world simulation. All right, here's my least fun part of doing this testing, hitting 44 mag with the MDF in place, because a lot of times it pushes it more than what it does in plain gel. So we might completely lose an entire block, lose the camera, get knocked over, not sure. 4 layers of denim, 1/4 inch MDF. Let's see what we got here. 44 mag. Not too bad. Let's set that back up, hit it with the 10 millimeter. All right, 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics, 1/4 inch MDF, 10 millimeter automatic. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look. Now this whole setup here is about 40 pounds worth of gel, and the 44 mag actually moved the entire setup back about 2 inches. The 10 millimeter moved it back about 1 inch. Now our 44 mag through our MDF impacted somewhere down here, it busted in half. Our 10 millimeters right here, so we can see that we definitely have some expansion going on in that first 3 inches. Again, our 44 mag, it fragmented in that first 3 inches there. You know, busting off, it almost looks like it's designed to do that, but it's not. It's just that XTP bullet is busting up pretty bad. So what we got going on here, it's really good damage in the gel. You know, we dumped more of it here than with the 10 millimeter, but we still had pretty good damage. The bullet went to 15 inches and then rolled back in that channel a little bit. Good expansion. Now with our 10 millimeters, actually more damage up here, which is interesting. Really good overall damage, and we went to a penetration of, let's say it again, 18.25 inches. Sometimes the parallax will make the back bullet look like it's at a different depth than this front channel, but when you're looking at it from straight on, it's the same. 18.25 inches of penetration versus the 44 mags 15 inches. So yeah, both of them did pretty well. I would say they're both acceptable, but for what I'm seeing here, you know, I would say the 44 mag has twice the recoil, but nowhere near twice the effect here. You know, I'm not even sure if I would say that this is better terminal ballistics with the 44 mag at all. They look pretty similar, but our 10 millimeter is doing it with, you know, a lot less recoil. And that's one of the points of the 10 millimeter. Like when I got this and I unboxed this revolver, people are like, well, that's dumb. But I'm looking at it from an internal ballistic standpoint, that the way that this thing works, this cartridge works, you know, you're putting out a lot of energy, but, you know, with a 44 mag or something, you're going to have a more powerful cartridge, but you need more barrel to do that. With this, you kind of like trick it a little bit, trick ballistics a little bit. I guess that's not the right word, but you're getting nearly the same power as something like a 357 Magnum, or actually a little more, but you're doing it with less recoil because you're not wasting so much extra power that you would need more barrel to work with. So enough talk there. Both these did pretty good. Let's take these out of here and take a close-up look at them. Then I'm going to shoot my steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get and recoil control. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets. Here's our 10mm going through our plain gel. A lot of fragmentation pieces come off. That's just because, you know, our expansion threshold is a little bit less, so, you know, it expands a little bit easier going in plain gel. It just fragments right out. 44 mag actually held together a little bit better. That could just be because the sectional density is different and just because it started getting wider. I don't know. Definitely a larger expansion with our 44 mag, but this is partly the reason why you see that first 3-inch piece go flying. For whatever reason, you know, it's dumping its energy quicker with a larger diameter, so it's just blowing back that energy back pretty quickly. Now going through our medium density fiberboard, what we got going on here with our 10mm actually looks a little bit more uniform expansion, you know, because that expansion threshold, you know, you lower its ability to expand too quickly, so it kind of holds together a lot better. Now 44 Magnum here, same thing, a little bit smaller expansion. See what happened here is, you know, this expansion would have been about as big as that 44, but we busted off a lot of pieces for some reason. So we bring down that expansion threshold a little bit where it doesn't want to expand quite as fast because it has denim in there. And then after it goes through, you know, a little bit of gel and it starts to expand out. So 10mm 44 through our MDF, 10mm 44 through our plain gel. Overall, all of them look good. So let's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, 12 yards from the target. I just want to see what kind of recoil control follow-up shot, recoil control I can get with these. A lot of people always say you can't get follow-up shots with a 44 mag. Truth is you can, but you know, you got to slow it down just a little bit. So this gun is a little bit weird because it shoots out a lot of stuff from the cylinder gap, so I have to kind of hold it differently. But I'm just going to get a front sight picture, and then I'm going to fire them off as fast as I think I can hit the target and see, you know, how the recoil is. So 44 mag. Right, shooting a little bit left for me, but you know, if you just slow that down a little bit, you know, you can make those follow-up shots. So I just fired it, and as soon as I saw the front sight back on target, I fired another one. So I'm going to do the same thing with our 10mm, see how this does for me. So I can do that a little bit faster with our 10mm. A lot less recoil. Like I mentioned before, about half the felt recoil. So very good shooting. Let me back up a little bit and continue to shoot at the steel. All right, 75 yards from the target. Not particularly practical, but I enjoy a challenge, and that's really why I do it most days. You know, it's just a lot of fun to me to see if I can hit from distance. So 44 mag, I'll go single action, see if I can make a hit here. Huh. Those must be hitting high because I aimed very center, and I was kind of surprised there that I wasn't hitting. Should have hit both those. So I think they're just shooting a little bit high for me, and sometimes you see that with kind of odd bullet weights for caliber. They kind of shift all over. So I guess let me aim below the target just a little bit, or low on the steel. If there's any target left, I think I'm going to shoot at with the 10mm now and see how these things shoot for me. 10mm. Let me try one single action. See where they're hitting for me. Can't see the sight very well though. See, what's interesting about that is the speed is, you know, a little bit faster. It doesn't quite hit as hard, but or it's not faster, but it's, I don't know, it just seemed like it was faster. It can't be faster, but yeah. So actually it was faster, wasn't it, in some of those shots. Let me keep going here. So I aim just as carefully as I did with the 44, but for some reason it's like, I don't know where they're hitting. I hit that first shot, but then I couldn't hit after that. And I've noticed that with both my 9mm and my 10mm revolvers. It just seems like, for whatever reason, those auto cartridges and revolvers are just, I mean, obviously it was accurate when we were shooting at the chronograph, very accurate, but when I back it up, I don't know what it is. It's like there's a little bit more anomaly going on where it's arcing up a little bit too high. We're not seeing that at 7 yards, 5 yards, 12 yards, but when we start getting out a little bit further, I think it becomes apparent that something was a little bit off for its elevation. But what we're seeing here today is both of these did very, very well. Honestly, when I'm looking at this, what I'm seeing is that the 10mm is basically doing what the 44 mag is doing, but it's doing it with half the recoil. Obviously our bullet diameter is smaller here, and we have more sectional density, so yeah, there's a little bit difference there. And some of these inconsistent 44 mag shots, the velocity was higher, but you know, some of the inconsistently low shots, the 10mm is actually a little bit higher and more powerful in those particular shots. So you know, what we're seeing here is the 10mm is a lot more consistent. It's got half the recoil, and we're pretty much doing what the 44 mag can do. So again, that's why I always wanted something like this, because what people don't understand is they look at boxes of ammo and they're like, oh, 44 mag has, you know, 800 foot-pounds. 357 Magnum has 580 foot-pounds. And they look at that and they think, well, you know, some of the lower end 10mm are lower than that, therefore, you know, the regular revolver cartridges are better. But they're not realizing that those numbers are in handguns after they've lost a good majority of their energy. Both 44 mag and 357 Magnum, even in 4-inch revolvers, you lose half of that energy that you would get in a carbine, but you're still dealing with all that recoil. Cartridges like the 10mm, also the 357 SIG are like this, where yes, it's less powerful if you were to put them in carbines, but you can put it in a handgun, you're pretty much the same power, but because the overall cartridge is less powerful, you're still getting the same velocity of a handgun, but with less recoil and less waste. So to me, the 10mm in a revolver like this makes a whole lot of sense, because the 10mm is a good cartridge, but it doesn't run reliably necessarily all the time. And 10mm pistols, I know somebody's going to get on here, and probably 50 people are going to get on here, oh, I had a Glock 20, I never had a malfunction, and that's good. But I've watched a lot of videos, I've heard a lot of information from a lot of people. When they go up to some of this hotter ammo, they can't run more than 3 rounds before it malfunctions. So I kind of never really looked at the 10mm as being legit, but then I'm thinking, okay, we put it in a revolver, maybe. And it is, it's a very good cartridge. So if they made a revolver version of this, it would be a fantastic cartridge. And I know somebody's gonna be like, 41 mag. No, 41 mag is like 10mm, or not, it's like 357 and 44, where you're wasting most of its energy. What we need is a high pressure cartridge, not too much powder, like the 10mm with a rim, so that it would be easier to use in a revolver. But as it is, the 10mm with the moon clip is pretty good. So I would say overall it's better than what you're getting out of the 44 mag because of the excessive recoil of the 44 mag. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.